Modern fitness is nuanced. You can lose weight with cardio, and most of us have a superficial understanding of fitness. In this video, we're going to talk about how to lose weight with cardio. I found two videos specifically that talked about losing weight with cardio. I took notes on both, and I want to share what I found on those two videos. Some of what I found is very general but concise, and some of what I found is way too much in the weeds for me. Hi, my name is Greg. First off, welcome to my channel. I'm pretty excited to be able to share my knowledge of fitness with you. I'm a math and science person. I'm the founder of iHeartGains, and iHeartGains is about gaining muscle and the practical application of math and science towards reaching favorable health outcomes. In my 30s, I did triathlons, and as I was approaching 40, I was hit by a car while cycling. Many of our long-term health solutions, I believe, exist in this union between fitness performance and more favorable health outcomes. So as a triathlete, I was all about fitness performance. And then after the injury, I started realizing that favorable health outcomes actually are often achieved through fitness performance metrics. So I looked at two different videos. Here's my notes, right? This is notes from the second video, and this is notes from the first video. I'm going to talk about it really quickly. So the Global Triathlon Network, I subscribe to their channel. You can check their channel on YouTube. In their video outline, it was really interesting because a lot of what they said was a lot what I agree about, and not much of what they said in their outline is disagreeable, right? It may have left some things out, but I think for the most part, if you want to run, it's a very good resource. So in their video outline, they talked about how to lose weight, the quality of food, the consistency, progress, and they conclude the video, right? So, these are probably three things that are pretty much really important across the board, right? The quality of food's important. I totally agree with it. Consistency is important, and progress is really important, right? And I think there are other things that they could probably talk about, but for the most part, that's pretty much it, right? And so one of the main things about how to lose weight, talked about calorie deficits. I never talk about calorie deficits in my method. I call it the Schmidtie method. I never talk about calorie deficits in my method. I call it the Schmidtie method for running, but I do talk about calorie deficits for bodybuilding and weightlifting though. So this next video is from, these two videos specifically say running for weight loss, run tips for losing weight, Global Triathlon Network. I'll put a link down below in the description. The second one is running for weight loss, do's and major don'ts. The Terran's Motive Method is the YouTube channel, and I'll put the link to their channel down below too, right? And so in Terran's Method, I think there's about 8 things that I pulled out of their outline. Dial it back, which means like don't go out at 110% when you're first starting. You want to, slowly progress up to where you want to be, basically. Low level cardio, maximum effort 20% of the time, right? And he talked about post exercise oxygen consumption. I'm not sure what he's talking about there, but I have a nuance I want to add to that. I'm gonna go back after I put this video out. I'm gonna go back and listen to what he's talking about and try to make sense of it and try to see how it fits into my method. He talks about pitfalls. 3 pitfalls that I took out of there. Fasted workouts is the pitfall because it messes with your cravings. Carb restriction is a pitfall. And then thinking that more is always better is another pitfall, right? And that I think everyone suffers with at one time or another. Don't overdo it. It's another point he's outlining. 80% of time in low intensity you want to spend running, and don't be strict in calorie deficits year round. So the 80% of the time in low intensity is something that is reflected in the Global Triathlon Network. The Global Triathlon Network, I believe they even said to walk sometimes, right? So if you're really heavy, you might want to walk sometimes, and that might even take the place of running. I found, I'll take a side note that, someone once told me that stopping going for a sprint and stopping, sprinting, stopping is actually faster than trying to run long and slow, right? And this is alluding to my method, the RH Gains method. And I will say one more thing about the Global Triathlon Network. They talk about running different speeds, right? And going by feel. This is amazing stuff, right? And it's like, they're not giving you too much information, but when you get like 6 months into it, you're going to understand what they're saying, and it's amazing. And as for Terrence's method, right? It's really interesting because he talks about the same thing in two different parts of the video, but he approaches it from two different perspectives. And I think that's amazing. So he talks about the low level cardio in the very beginning, and then at the end, he talks about 80% of the time you want to spend in low intensity. And then also he talks about, like, even conversely, he talks about maximum effort 20% of the time. It's all the same stuff, right? And then in towards the end, he talks about, don't overdo it. And he talks about in the very beginning, dial it back, right? You got to reel that, all that eagerness to get to your goal, reel it back, right? And I think this is also pretty good because he's approaching one solution from two different perspectives. And to me, that's the essence of innovation in modern fitness. And this is why I think most of us have a superficial understanding of fitness, because we tend to only want to approach a solution from one perspective. And like I said, I only saw 2 videos that talked about doing cardio to lose weight. And actually, I think there should be many videos that talk about losing weight with cardio. So I'm going to get onto my method, the Schmidtie method. I'm calling it the I Heart Gains Schmidtie method of doing cardio to lose weight, right? And so I should say that, I trained for 18 months before attempting and completing my first Olympic distance triathlon. I finished it in about 2 hours and 51 minutes. And then that second year, it was amazing for me as a triathlete. Right? I didn't even think I've reached heights I never think I'd reach. Right? So I was riding, at the end of this, I'm riding 300 miles a week. Or in the second year, I'm riding 300 miles a week. I'm running 30 miles a week. I would have never have guessed I would be able to do that. I weighed up, before I did triathlons, I weighed as much as 220 pounds. And then during that second year, I got down to about 166 pounds, 165 pounds, right? And so it's a big, major difference, right? And so, and I didn't lose all the weight really fast. And I would actually say I lost a lot of the weight through running. And I'm going to explain to you my run week, and I'm going to explain to you my run speed training, right? So there's two things I'll just show you the screenshot here. This is my run week, and I'll share the screenshot here. Here's my run plan, right? And I'm going to describe it. 2 things I want to point out right off the bat. There is this concept of interval training, right? Interval training, if you look at mathematics, intervals between 0 and 6, the reason why I'm choosing 6, because 6 is 6 miles is about 10 kilometers. So I'm training for an Olympic distance triathlon, and the 10th kilometer is 6.2 miles, right? And so typically when I was training, I was trying to hit every single interval between 0 and 6 is how I understood it. But then later on, I'm finding out that people who talk about intervals are talking about the repeats, like the 4x400s that you see on this would be considered interval, I think, by somebody. I'm not 100% sure, but I think. When actually the intervals are all the runs that you're going to do, all the running you're going to do at various miles, that the maximum number of miles you want to be able to run and the minimum, right? And ideally, when you run a 10K or a marathon or 5K, you want to hit every single mile, at the same speed. You don't want to be suffering, in theory. You don't want to run a mile faster, way faster in the beginning and taper off at the end. You want to run it so it's consistent all the way through, right? That is a way, I think, to approach this. And so the interval training is one component of this, and then also increasing your endurance. And there's 2 ways you can increase your endurance that I found that work really well, especially for a runner. You can do bicep curls, and it really increases your endurance, right? So doing these bicep curls like this increases your endurance. Why? Because when you're running at a long distance, the one thing that gets tired quickly on your body is your arms. And um, going into the endurance rep ranges helps improve your endurance while you're running, right? Believe it or not. Then also another way to increase your endurance, as I said, my second year of doing triathlons, um, I went from running a 9-minute mile when I first started to running like a 5:15 mile in my second year, right? I was running a 7-mile run on a Friday. In my first mile, I'm 100 meters from the first mile marker, and I'm at a 5:30 on my I'm at a 5:05 on my watch or whatever, right? And so um, my run times got a lot faster when I increased my endurance, my cardiovascular endurance on the bike. So um, I use the bike to help me improve as a runner, and I never trained to run faster than 6-minute mile when I did the 4x400s in that run week on Monday, for example, or Tuesday and Wednesday. I would only run as fast as the treadmill would run, and I do 400 meters 4 times during my workouts. And I never run faster than a 6-minute mile. But one thing I was doing was I was training my body to understand that it could run at a 6-minute mile pace. And the more you do something, the better you get at it, right? And so, and then also I want to say that the whole idea with doing the bicep curls, like I was running 12 miles every Saturday for a long time, and in that first year I realized that doing the bicep curls really made mile 11, mile 12 a lot easier when doing those long endurance runs. So anyway, that's it in a nutshell. And do I want to cover anything else? Oh, pitfalls. Oh yeah, it talks about fasted workouts and cravings and carb restriction, right? So now I do fasted workouts. I'm not in my 30s anymore. I'm 53 right now, and it talks about cravings. So one thing about food, right? Both of these videos talked about quality of food. I'll touch on this shortly in this video, right? So there are foods that help you recover really well, and there are foods that help you perform really well, right? So you can perform really well and you can recover really well, but these don't always have to be the same foods, and they're probably not the same foods, right? So how I would approach it, so since I'm always focused on performance as a triathlete, I'm waking up 4 hours before I'm going to exercise, and usually my exercise is at sunrise, right? So if sunrise is at 5:30 or 5:24 or 5:15, I'm waking up, 4 hours before that and eating. And usually I'm eating white rice and boiled eggs, right? Or scrambled eggs. And then I'll eat that while it's digesting, and I'm storing it for fuel. When I get up at, you know, 10 minutes before sunrise, I'm ready to go. When I'm clipping on my bike and I'm riding, um, I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to access the energy that I've eaten. And I found that there are some foods that we generally think of as being healthy, like white rice or oatmeal. They're not good for performance. They're good for recovery, actually. And this is why people would say that brown rice, is is good for you, and white rice is bad. Well, white rice is good if you're performing with it, right? If you're using it to perform. Also, people might say fruit is bad because fruit causes inflammation. Well, actually, if fruit can be good if you're using it for performance, right? This is like there's no good or bad. It's all healthy. Like if you're not using the fruit to perform at a certain level, then I can see where it could be bad, and this whole situation could be detrimental, right? And a lot of the stuff is true. Like we never really had orange juice for a certain time, but actually, if we're actually looking to exert ourselves in a certain way that can utilize the fructose that's created by our body over time will adapt to being able to use it, and actually can use it for a lot of health benefit. You can reach certain cardiovascular levels of cardiovascular fitness with food that you normally think would be inflammatory, like fructose. But anyway, that is something I learned in my second year, and I didn't even understand it fully until now, like 10 years later, 20 years later, right? So the food quality makes an important difference. And eating ramen noodles 3 hours, 4 hours before, it's not the same as eating white rice 3 hours before, because ramen noodles is very low quality carbohydrates. Anyway, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I like the Global Triathlon Network video because they're very concise. And if you look at the link of this video right now, I'm not too concise. I'm really excited about what I want to share. And Terrence's motive method, I like it because he's approaching, he's kind of subliminally suggesting that you don't want to overdo it. And then he's subliminally suggesting that it's actually easier than you think it is. And Terrence's method makes it more personable. And check out his video. I'll link to both of them down in the description. And I'm Schmidtie. I help you reach your fitness goals. If you want help reaching your fitness goals or more favorable health outcomes, there's links below this video. If you want me to help you, contact me at iHeartGains. Go to my website. There's a link down below where you can schedule time. We can talk. If I have time, I'll talk to you soon. Certainly the food that you're eating that could be bad is fructose. Is way better than